All right. Now, that does it for today's interviews. I appreciate everyone who has stopped by. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. But there's more show left. We have to talk about a lot of things, my friends. We have to talk about a little more Calgary, a little 227, a little Connor, Courts, Khabib, welterweight picture, middleweight picture. Renzo Gracie winning at 51 years young on Friday. Bellator signing a bunch of people. The UK TV deal that you're also worried about. PFL on Thursday. Much going on. And an old faithful returning as well. So let us say hello to New York Rick, who will be entering in a matter of seconds here. And as he does enter the studio, let me say that we do this show with a heavy heart, as we found out yesterday that the great Nikolai Volkov passed away, one of the all-time greats. The great Brian Lawler, a.k.a. Brian Christopher, a.k.a. a.k.a. Grandmaster Sexay, passed away, and also Brickhouse Brown passing away as well. A horrible day in the world of professional wrestling, but to me, Nikolai Volkov, an absolute legend when he would do the Russian national anthem at Madison Square Garden with Iron Sheik. That was incredible. No one had heat like that. I love those two guys. They were great. So very sad to hear that he passed away, and of course Brian Lawler as well, Brian Christopher, Too Cool. Horrible day in pro wrestling. Were you a fan of those guys back in the day?
Not so much Volkov. That was a little before my era, but of course I remember, what was it? Grandmaster?
Sexay.
Sexay.
Yes. Please put the microphone closer to you. I'm going to take this off. And are you wearing a fanny pack?
Oh,
yes.
I'm wearing a fanny pack.
Wait, I got one too.
But yes, I was a fan.
This is my fanny pack. Can we hear Eric? We're all good? No? Okay. Let me put this back on. I wasn't sure. We've got he's like a ninja, Jake. You know, he comes in there crawling on the floor. Okay, let me talk here while they set you up. Our good friends at Reebok, look what they gave us. They gave us the Canadian Gangster starter kit. You see it right over there. Look at that thing. Got the Reebok logo. And what I like about the Reebok logo is that it's very subtle. You see that? Very subtle. You can hardly even see it. Okay, so you got that. But it's not just the fanny. Say something for us, Eric.
Look at that fanny pack.
Yes, there we go. I hear you. It's not just the fanny pack. There's like a whole actual kit in here. So you got the glasses. I can take this off now, right? You got the glasses too. Save this for later. Yep. We got the shirt. We got the gangster shirt.
For sure.
Look at this. Maybe the best shirt that they've ever made, right? Look at that thing. Unbelievable. Got the shirt.
It's almost like Inception. The fanny pack is in the shirt.
We've got La Chapelle Barbershop. What is this?
I don't know who. They've partnered with some people clearly on this.
Yes, but what is it? With the Canadian...
Oh, what is this beard oil?
Oh.
Mustache
Oh my
stuff.
God, this smells great.
Yeah.
This is incredible. This is better than I thought. Oh my God, there's an actual Canadian flag. Can you buy this? Or is it just for us?
I think
What's going on with your phone over there?
Not pro. I think this kit is just for us.
And here's the best part.
Mouthpiece.
Yes. Why?
In case, you got to throw down. In case action happens, you need to protect your teeth, protect your gums.
Unbelievable. Now,
the Canadian Gangster doing it.
Here's the other thing. They actually gave us, Canadian Gangster, the unofficial guide to channeling your inner Canadian gangster. And there's a whole thing here about how to grow a mustache, how to groom said mustache.
Tips and tricks.
The fanny pack. Just pictures of Olivier. Don't forget your P's and Q's. Gangsters always say sorry and thank you. If you ain't polite and well-mannered, you ain't no Canadian OG. Now, the sad part about all this would have been perfect on this Monday after a win in Calgary.
A tough fight for Olivier, but a good one.
Yeah. Look, Alex Hernandez is very tough. That
Talented.
man is very tough. But this, I'm just kind of bummed because this would have been a perfect unveiling,
I agree with you.
How does it feel, the fanny?
You know what? Dad, I think I'm fully in dad mode now.
Who was talking about being a dad earlier, about the socks on the show?
I didn't hear that part.
Oh, Nick Newell. Nick Newell was talking about.
Oh yes,
He looks forward. There's nothing
upcoming fatherhood.
Yes.
Also, how about Kamaru Usman with his
Yes.
little girl
But you're
in the
going
back?
backwards.
What do you mean?
The weight is just melting off you.
Well, no.
You look drastically different.
Yes, thank you, but not backwards in the sense that those 8 months as she was growing, that's when I put on the weight.
What happened? Now that you're going backwards, can you tell us what happened?
I didn't exercise and I was eating shit.
What were you?
I was eating
What were you eating?
for 8 months. Just nasty stuff like
what?
Takeout every night.
Yeah,
Like you don't have
because
time
your
to
wife?
cook as much.
Yeah.
So I was eating.
now
not
what are you
well.
doing?
Now I'm eating much better.
Are we headed back to the UFC fit near Crick?
Well, I mean, I'm eating.
You've never been fitter than during that period.
Sure, I am. I wasn't. I'm eating similarly, not exercising quite as hard. That was very strenuous.
You were going hardcore?
On that time?
Yeah.
That was really hard.
I didn't know that.
I was playing basketball every day, and then the workouts that they gave me were very intense.
Because there was part of it, right?
Yeah.
You had to do like a thing.
I was going very hard.
Right.
I mean, I'm still running quite a bit and playing basketball and all that, but not nearly as tough. Mike Dolce put me through the ringer on that one. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. But no, that weight gain was all part of fatherhood.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And then you stopped playing basketball. No, there was one point where you had like a mountain of a belly, and I was like, "Geez, how do I tell this guy?"
Look, it made it easier to balance her when I'm holding her on the gut.
Yeah.
How could you tell me? Well, you definitely delivered the message through Pizza Caro.
It was unintentional. It really was. But you know what? Looking at the results, I'm glad I did it.
Much appreciated. But it's good to.
There's just one thing left.
What's that? No, not yet. Although
there's
more and more gray hairs coming in.
Okay.
And that's got to be a sign that this has to go soon. So I'm feeling the end coming, but not yet.
But there is a yet.
It will happen.
Before it just used to be no.
It will happen at some point.
Okay.
Maybe at the 1 year.
1 year what?
Birthday of my daughter. Maybe that might be a good
November,
time to commemorate it.
What's the actual date?
November 23rd.
Right, 7 days before Kamaru Usman's supposed to fight Colby Covington.
Yeah, that's when I think of it. It's like Thanksgiving, my daughter's birthday, Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington.
Yep.
How about him dropping that?
I love that
randomly.
By the way, could we just say like this idea that we keep these fights like these closely guarded state secrets? This is the way it should be. Why shouldn't the fighter be able to announce his own fight? Why shouldn't the fighter be able to, like the UFC and Bellator and everyone? And it hasn't just been like this era. Everyone's so worried about the fight getting out. Oh, please don't announce it. Because what? Because you're going to announce it on Twitter with some Twitter graphic? You're doing absolutely nothing in terms of promoting it. Who cares?
So I have an interesting perspective on this as opposed to somebody else who might, because I do work for certain promotions that announce fights with Glory and Invicta. I guess from my perspective, the concern would be somebody talking about something that's not yet done.
Okay, but if it's done, who cares?
And somebody else running with that news, you doing that, reporting something in a way that's not completely finalized.
Okay, but if it's
done,
done,
is signed, sealed, and delivered,
yes,
I have a hard time arguing with you there. Like I think that should be.
But it's like super taboo.
Yeah, it's the promotions want to announce the fights. That is the standard.
But they don't even do anything.
Sure.
They put it in a press release. They put a Twitter graphic. That's it.
Yeah.
If anything, announcing it now earlier, and then them announcing it is like 2 kicks of the can.
Yeah, it's funny. You said that on the Slack as well. I've not heard that expression before.
In your life?
2 bites of the apple. I've heard. 2 kicks of the can.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you. It's not. It shouldn't be taboo. I don't think.
Tired of it.
But
if there's one thing I could change in the world of MMA, that's it.
I really don't think that's true. That's the one thing you would change.
So I said an Old Faithful is coming back. An Old Faithful is coming back.
You did.
Rick's Picks is coming back. Now, noob fans.
Yes.
And Lord knows we have a lot of them. Everyone jumping on the bandwagon ever since we came to ESPN. All the noob fans. But noob fans would think it's when you used to show tweets and stuff.
Yeah.
That's not Rick's Picks.
That's not Rick's Picks.
What is Rick's Picks?
That was Rick's Picks 2.0. The original Rick's Picks started because I petitioned Ariel. I was very gung-ho about sharing my betting knowledge and my acumen with the world. So I had to fight for a segment called Rick's Picks. That was the initial version of Rick's Picks.
Did you coin that
I did.
phrase? Okay.
I did. Now since stolen by James Vick and Vic's Picks. But we can talk about that. My lawyers are working on that.
Good.
But the initial version, the flagship Rick's Picks, was a betting segment that then turned from me just giving out picks into us tracking the bets, Ariel giving me a lot of guff about it, even instituting a competition called the Rick's Picks Invitational. It took on a life of its own. At the moment, we are bringing back Rick's Picks. The format for now is ahead of fight weeks. I'm going to talk about some past, performances, meaning we can look back at UFC on Fox 30, look at it from a betting perspective, then talk about upcoming fights, in this case UFC 227. I'll give a few picks, obviously, from hence the name Rick's Picks, and we can potentially down the line, maybe we think about doing some kind of tournament or some kind of competition once again.
The RPI.
The RPI. So we've taken
potential return.
What we did with you, me, and Brett, and now we're ramping it up to make it a real betting thing, and we will talk about that.
Everyone's talking about betting these days.
Indeed.
Great betting show on ESPN Plus. Nice little plug for our friends over at ESPN Plus, right? Everyone wants to bet. There's a new place outside the Meadowlands.
That's right.
The FanDuel one, I think it is.
Betting is now legal state by state. They can decide that federally betting is now legal. State by state, they can decide how to implement the betting within their state jurisdiction. So I think this is only going to be a bigger topic as that starts to happen. No longer will you have to go to Las Vegas as the only place you can sports bet. You're now going to be able to bet. So this is going to be a big thing. And
I remember before when you used to do it, you used to say like, oh, this is for entertainment purposes,
of course,
blah, blah, blah. No longer the case.
The gloves are off.
We're legal.
We can talk about it. Now, whether they can hold me to my picks or not, I think the answer is yes, but...
Well, the key is that we have to monitor the picks.
Sure,
how
we have to track it.
Yes,
of course. If we don't, it's kind of useless.
Just like, what's the point of all this?
And hopefully I can prove myself to be a worthy, tout, and you can follow along. So, not a ton...
Oh, great. After all that, not a ton?
No, not a ton of things to talk about from UFC on Fox 30.
Okay.
Favorites won. There were a lot of toss-up fights, so it wasn't like any big underdogs won or anything like that. There were not really any super shocking outcomes. One of the ones that I was personally looking at was I thought Tisha Torres was going to do a little bit better against Joanna as an underdog. She was a big underdog. I thought she was going to be a little bit closer in that fight. Joanna shut her game down. And nothing really that shocking happened. I think the biggest underdog to win was Dustin Ortiz, who closed at plus 155. So not a huge, night for underdogs.
Big win for him.
Surprisingly, though, and this was one of the ones that I was looking at heading into it, Jose Aldo was an underdog to Jeremy Stephens by the time the line closed.
Really?
Stevens had the momentum out of the two, but I was favoring Aldo there. Aldo obviously getting it done. Look, before the finish, Stephens looked like he, was posing some problems for Aldo. It wasn't exactly a cakewalk, but that would have been one that I would have had my eye on. So we talked about UFC on Fox 30. Again, hopefully over the course of this, we'll be able to talk about big underdogs, all those type of things. Let's look ahead to UFC 227. There's a few plays, there's a few bets that I'm looking at, and I'll start with.
Can I just say something? This site that I go to Best Fight Odds.
Best Fight Odds.
The best?
Shout out to them. It's great.
The best. They have Contender Series.
Oh, yeah. Now, they only put those out today. Oh. So there's not a long time frame that you have, understandably so. They're doing this every single week. There's a lot of fighters to cap.
We've come a long way, though, in terms of MMA betting.
But there's Contender Series odds, yeah.
Wow. Has that been the case for the entire season?
Yes. They've had the odds for Contender Series. I personally... Now, this is just me, gamblers out there. You'll have your own takes on this. I like more of a track record of these fighters. I like to be able to see more, do my own research, look into them a little bit more. The guys in Contender Series don't have as much of a resume, don't have as much footage out there, so it's harder for me to feel confident in betting. I like to stay away from those types of fights. I typically, if it's your UFC debut or even the first, your second fight after, I try to stay away from some of those.
Okay.
Because I personally don't feel like I've known enough. Fighters can grow so much from that first UFC experience. It's one of the things I shy away from personally. But there are odds out there if you're interested in betting on Contender Series. If you know something that everybody else doesn't know about some of these guys who may have been on your regional scene and you don't know, and they don't know, by all means, it's out there for you. But
today, no Contender Series.
Today, no Contender Series. I don't know enough about the guys to say anything confidently. But we'll skip to 227. There's a parlay. I know this will get you excited.
I love
like
parlays. I love parlays. You
there's
kidding me?
There's a parlay out there that I like, and typically I'm not a parlay guy.
Okay.
I typically shy away from parlays.
You like standalone?
I just like a single bet.
Okay.
That's how I've always operated. I like a single bet. But in this case, Demetrius Johnson is part of this parlay.
Oh.
And you're not getting great odds on Demetrius Johnson solo. You're only getting minus 470 on Demetrius versus Henry Cejudo, who we had on the show earlier.
Yes.
Demetrius is currently minus 470. So he's one half of a two-leg parlay that I like. I would parlay Demetrius with the fight between Thiago Santos and Kevin Holland.
Yes.
Not going the distance. So that fight not going the distance is minus 380. Now, the reason I'll give a little insight into why I'm picking that. I think Demetrius Johnson is going to win this fight. I don't think Henry Cejudo poses much of a threat in this case unless something has drastically changed. Now, we know Henry Cejudo is one of the fighters who makes a lot of improvements between fights. Demetrius Johnson seems to only be getting better and better. Finishes are coming. I really don't see Demetrius being dethroned here or a contender, in my opinion, at the flyweight weight class right now who can do that. So Demetrius Johnson, minus 470, I feel is a good bet, but you're not getting great odds on that. So I would like to parlay that with the fight that I mentioned between Santos and Holland because I think that's going to be a finish for either one, no matter who wins. Now, you could bet, I think Santos is going to win. He's a big favorite. He's minus 400. He was minus 380 earlier, but because I think either guy, if they win, is going to finish, you might as well get both in that scenario.
But it's such a big number, no?
It is, but that's why I'm combining them. Because you're able to get better odds. So when you combine them, the odds on that parlay become minus 188. So you would bet 100 to win maybe $59-ish, 57 to $59-ish dollars, plus your money back. So a little bit better odds. I think that's a safe bet. I think Santos is going to win. But should Holland shock him and win, I think it's going to happen by finish either way. Don't think that there's any chance that fight goes to decision. Both of these guys finishers, and you know the ways that Santos has lost in the past have been by getting finished. So I think that's the play for my parlay. Again, don't love parlays, but for this fight card, those odds seem to make sense to me. So
it's only a two-fight parlay?
Two-fight parlay.
It's the most boring parlay in the world.
You know, you're going to get me into
I like the
trouble
3, 4, 5ers.
No, you know what?
2 fights?
You're not going to get that out of me.
I've never seen such a boring parlay.
Now,
it's the worst parlay ever.
There's a few straight plays I also like. I also like TJ Dillashaw, and I'm surprised. I have to admit, I'm a little bit surprised that TJ Dillashaw is only minus 115 right now, and Garbrandt is minus 105.
Surprised about what?
I'm surprised that TJ's not a bigger favorite.
Oh,
I don't think that first fight was a fluke. I don't think there's anything that you can point to in that fight that would say that TJ couldn't replicate what he did in that first fight. I think going into it, I was big on TJ winning that fight. I think we even looked at the odds, and I mentioned TJ being one of my picks for that card. Okay. I think TJ has the skill set that can counter what Cody's bringing. Now, granted, he did, make no mistake about it. He got rocked in that first round, and that is a dangerous thing. But he came back in the second round and finished Cody. I think TJ is another straight play that I would make again this time going into the fight. I don't see why things would change. I'm on the TJ Dillashaw wagon for this one.
Whoa.
I think he gets it done again. There's an interesting play. This is not the one I'm not going to play, so this is not an official one, but one to keep my eye on. Maybe it gets a little bit of better odds. TJ and Cody going the distance is plus 185. I'm surprised because I think that they may both be more tentative. I think they may have felt out that first fight. TJ realized that he was playing with a little bit of fire. Cody rocked him. On the other side of the coin, Cody may be thinking, TJ knocked me out. I have to mind my P's and Q's. I've seen this guy before. I have to be a little bit tighter, a little bit sharper, but also a little bit more defensive. I wouldn't be surprised if this one goes to a decision similar to Rose and Joanna, where they saw what happened in the first fight and then kind of stayed tight and technical and led to decision. So I'm keeping my eye on that one. If it gets over 2-1, then maybe that's a play. And now one of the things, I put out a poll on Twitter. People were looking for, or I was rather looking for what people wanted to see from betting. And one of the things that consistently came up was people wanted underdogs. Everybody loves to bet on an underdog. So I tried to find an underdog for this card. There weren't many that I loved, but there's one underdog that I do like on this card, and it's a significant underdog. It's Betch Kohea.
Wow.
Betch Kohea is plus 275. Aldana is minus 335. Now, I think Aldana is a very good fighter. I think her skill set, her athleticism, her frame are very similar to Holly Holm with a few major differences. I don't think she's as good an athlete as Holm. I don't think she mixes in her kicks as much, but the length, the ability to box technically, that's all there. And we saw what happened in the fight with Holm and Kohea. But I think there's a difference in that Kohea's pressure is going to get to Aldana at some point. We've seen her against pressure fighters like her fight against Leslie Smith. I don't think she handled it as well. I'm not saying this is a coin flip by any means, but I think there's value on Betch Kohea at plus 275 against Irene Aldana.
Wow.
Yeah.
Our friend Jedi Goodman is going to love this.
That's the underdog pick.
The GOAT
for this card.
Betch Kohea with the pick.
Yeah. I think...
Hopefully we'll get a little dance afterwards, too.
I would like to see the return of that dance. Yeah, I think Aldana is rightfully the favorite here. Betch needs to get back on track. But there are some things in her defensive game that I think Betch Kohea's pressure is going to be able to expose. And I think Betch has gotten a bad rap recently. I think she's still a dangerous fighter. And so she's my underdog play at plus 275. It's good odds, in my opinion, for somebody whose style should match well with Aldana's. And that's it for the return of Rick's picks for 227.
Someone's calling me here. Now
they're calling you to call in the bet.
Yeah. You see, the thing is about 227, did you feel as you were looking for these plays, this card is really lacking?
It's a tough card. Here? It's not
shocked.
What we saw. Even the Fox card from top to bottom
had juice.
Was stacked.
Had juice.
Was stacked. This one was clearly lacking. There's not many
I'm trying
fights.
to find fights on the undercard. So the top two are the top two, right? It's great, awesome. Yep. There's nothing really to complain about other than if you wanted to see TJ Dillashaw fight.
But
DJ.
now they're fighting on the same card. Can set
it's
that
cool.
up. I love those two fights. Yeah.
I'm trying to see what else Okay, Brett John's great. Let's see how he looks. Pedro Munoz.
He's a big dog,
cool.
by the way. Brett Johns. Yeah.
Yeah. A bit surprising, no?
Munoz is very talented.
Shorty Torres back against Alex Perez. That's good. Shaman Moraes. Swanson Moicano. Ricky Simone back. Like Kevin Holland going from Contender Series, to Thiago Santos, a fight that was just added like a week ago.
He's a top guy. This is a really big jump up.
But that's on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
That's pay-per-view.
That's a big jump up for a guy to be making his UFC debut on the pay-per-view card against a top 15er.
Just sort of surprised.
Yeah.
You know what's the problem with this card? The problem is, you'll recall Dana White telling Lance Pugmire it was supposed to be GSP versus Nate Diaz, Luke Rockhold versus Alexander Gustafsson, Zabit versus Yair Rodriguez. Like, those fights were dangled in front of us.
And
not one of them came to fruition.
Here. Yeah.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. But, I mean, even if you just look at this card objectively, it's just not as strong. Realistically, it's not as strong as what we just saw on Fox.
No. It should be the opposite,
right? But the top two, if you're buying the pay-per-view, you're buying it for those two.
Right.
And those two are great.
That's a big arena.
It's a big arena to sell.
Center.
It is.
Big arena. It's Hollywood. It's LA. You know, you got to come out. I don't know. The thing I always hear about, you know, the fight game and going to big cities, in places like Los Angeles, there's a million things to do on a Saturday night.
You
right?
can be anywhere in the city. You need to be here. Why? Make me come here.
Right. Yeah. And so this is a tough one.
It comes down to, are the top two fights enough?
Is that enough? I mean,
is that enough to get a casual fan in the door? Do they go, oh, Demetrius Johnson, TJ Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt? I know all these names. I'll come in the door for those guys. They're on the poster. They're on the ticket. Is that enough? Because if you're the casual fan, you're probably not going that deep down the prelims that you know that who
especially
the other
Hollywood,
fighters are.
Right? Historically, they are a late arriving crowd, even for Laker games.
A late arriving crowd. They know the big names, but they're coming for that. Is that enough? We'll see.
Was it a mistake to do the immediate rematch? You saw the little factoid I read earlier.
Yeah,
mistake.
In my opinion, no.
But you're not picking him.
I wouldn't have done it. I would have given Cody another fight. I think that's something you've been saying. I would have given Cody another fight, but the fight is so good that I don't have a problem with it. And I felt the same way about Joanna and Rose. I felt like those two are so good. I don't have an issue with it. The same way I would have felt about Gustafsson Jones. Like there's certain fights that the participants, the competitors in those fight are so top level and deserve to be in that position. And I have a hard time arguing that there's somebody else in line that will give the champion as much of a fight. I have a hard time arguing with Cody and TJ, even though for me, I would have liked to see Cody get another fight. If I had my druthers, Cody gets another fight, TJ and DJ fight, and that's the way it goes. But I can't complain about getting what I think are the two best bantamweights in the world squaring off. It's hard. So I'm okay with it, but it wouldn't have been the way I went.
All right.
One other thing, actually.
Yes.
One other thing you reminded me, as you said, Moicano, an interesting line movement there.
Okay.
Going back to the betting for a second. Moicano, at least at 5 dimes, and we're looking at bestfightodds.com for these odds, Moicano opened this fight at minus 165. Cub Swanson opened at plus 125. Right now, so that's relatively close. Right now, Moicano is minus 420.
Wow.
And Cub Swanson is plus 335.
What happened?
I think people are seeing Moicano as one of the next contenders in that division for sure.
Wow.
And Cub Swanson on a tough stretch right now. Yep. He needs one. He's 34, I think. He's getting up there in age. Moicano's 28, 29. I think they see this as a make or break fight for Cub, and Moicano being very talented. We can't forget Moicano, but before Brian Ortega pulled off that submission, was winning that fight. Yep. And that I think he would have been undefeated. I think he only has one loss, and it's to Ortega. Yep. This guy could be the next contender in that division. So a lot of respect by the betting public at the moment for Moicano. We'll see if some action comes in on Swanson late, but it's an interesting thing to track. A lot of respect for a guy facing a veteran in Cub Swanson.
Yeah, Swanson is 34, as you said. You're right about the one loss. He's coming off a win over Calvin Cater.
He looked fantastic in that one.
Brooklyn. Also has wins over Jeremy Stevens. Yeah. Right? Remember that? Split decision. Beat Tom Ninamaki. So
I'm not surprised, but that number is very high. It's for a guy like Cub Swanson to be that big a dog to somebody, there has to be a lot of respect for Moicano's game, especially with the way the line moved from that close to now so drastic.
I was saying if Cub Swanson wins, I want to see the rematch against Aldo after all these years, 9 years later. But maybe it's Moicano against Aldo.
Sledding.
A lot of people wrote that to me. It's going to be Moicano against Aldo.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are very high on Renato Moicano.
And rightfully so. Okay. You threw out a question out there.
I did.
Ariel Helwani's question of the week.
Yes.
Who should Dustin Poirier fight next?
Yes.
The options were Tony Ferguson, Nate Diaz, Kevin Lee, or wait for the title shot. 53%, very large majority, want to see Dustin Poirier versus Tony Ferguson next.
That's the call. How many people voted?
24,000 people.
Dang, son.
I'll give the other percentages. 18% Kevin Lee, 16% wait for the title shot, and 13% Nate Diaz.
Wow.
Nate Diaz last.
Wow. That's actually kind of surprising.
I'm with you.
This is the way I'd book it.
Okay.
Conor Khabib, Ferguson Poirier, Nate Diaz, Anthony Pettis, Lee versus the winner of Vic Gaethje. That's the only one that I'm not 100% on because Vic Gaethje is still, it's less than a month away. So, but that's how I'd book it.
I like all those.
I think Lee wants to come back sooner though, but that's how I'd book it. And in particular, in this case, Poirier Ferguson, number one contender fight. And if we can, let's steal a page from what they're trying to do in New York and do them all on the same card.
Yep.
Right? October 6th, with the Las Vegas. Yeah. Definitely Poirier Ferguson on that card. Definitely. Sure. That's the fight, right?
I love that fight.
And by the way, I asked Poirier to come on the show and initially said yes, but he wants to spend time with his daughter. So for all you people saying that I didn't have him on the show, get the hell out of here. I also asked Eddie Alvarez, but, I don't like asking people after losses,
I think understandably.
But then I see the comments.
Don't read the comments.
I know.
Don't read the comments.
How do I get Twitter without the mentions? How do I just get them?
Speaking of the comments, let's pivot for a second.
Okay.
A lot of comments about not being able to jump to interviews that you missed while watching on Twitter.
Okay.
I tweeted out earlier a solution for this.
Please.
And so let me bring up the exact tweets because I also want to give credit to the gentleman who suggested it. But you can actually watch the show while it's in progress live. Meaning, people are complaining, hey, I can't go back and watch while you guys are broadcasting, even though the full archive is at the end of the show, which is great, and you can go through it. But now you can watch earlier interviews, and here's how you do it. When you're in the Twitter player, when you're watching on the Twitter stream, there's a button in the right corner that says View on Periscope with hearts and chats. So you just click that.
It looks like almost like a upside down tier,
like the location symbol.
Yeah, that too.
But it's the Periscope symbol.
Logo. Yeah.
So you click that. Once you click that, it's going to take you to the Periscope page instead of the Twitter page, and you can actually just add the timestamp to the URL. And you can find this all on my Twitter at New York Rick. Ariel retweeted it as well. You can add your timestamp. So if you wanted to jump to the first hour of the show, you just put $T equals 1H00M00S, and you'll jump to exactly the 1 hour mark. 1 hour, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. It's very intuitive once you read what it is. And you will jump to hour 1. If that's not where you want to go to the 30-minute mark, you put 0H, 30M, 0S, and you will jump to the 30-minute mark. You can jump anywhere you want in the show, and this is while we're streaming live. So you can catch any interview you want.
Who loves you?
Earlier in the show. And the person who put me onto this, he tweeted me earlier, is Carl Schreibner or Scribner.
Man.
What do you think? Schreibner?
I'm going to go with Schreibner.
I'm going to go Carl Schreibner. Shout out to you, Carl. Thank you for putting us on the right path. So now we know how we can watch during the live show.
That's amazing.
So you can jump around.
No more complaints.
No more complaints.
All right.
I don't want to hear anybody saying, but I can't rewind. I can't watch the interviews. You can. Yeah, you know what? You can take the time to press one button and enter the timestamp.
The best is when I get people who say, "Oh, I used to love when your show was for free, and now I can't." Like, what? Now you're just
now you don't know anything.
Yeah, now you just don't know anything. But thank you for playing. Now let me ask you this: Eddie Alvarez, does he re-sign with the UFC? Coming off the loss? That was the last fight on his contract.
The circumstances of that, it's very difficult for me to read where Eddie Alvarez is in his career. Clearly, Eddie is still a top fighter, but is he a top fighter who's getting shop worn? And that might, lower his negotiating leverage. To me, that fight told me that Dustin Poirier wins those fights, no matter how many times they fight. But Eddie Alvarez is still a top contender. So I would, if I was a betting man, I would say he returns. Yeah, I would say he sticks around.
Sucks going into contract talks off a loss.
Well, you know what? One of our questions from Twitter, Steve Pushy asked, Eddie Alvarez chose to gamble and wait till after his rematch with Dustin Poirier to renegotiate a new contract. Seeing as he lost, do you think the UFC will still give him more money on a new deal? Essentially, do you think that the number that they would have given him is the same after the loss? I have to think no. You hurt your leverage by taking that risk. But ultimately, so I think yes. I think he will return to the UFC. I think they will make it worth his while. I think it's the best place he can get the top fights that he deserves. And to be honest, losing to Dustin Poirier at this point in his career and at this point in Eddie Alvarez's career doesn't set him back that much. I think Dustin Poirier is clearly a guy on the rise. It keeps him in that top title picture. He wasn't one of the people we mentioned when you were putting together that fantasy lightweight card, but I think he could be. I think he could be. Eddie, he could jump right in there.
Yeah, Eddie versus Kevin Lee. Eddie versus Kevin
Lee.
There's still some fights.
Great fight.
Yeah, there's still some fights for
sure.
So
I say yeah. I still say, but no doubt he hurt his position.
Yeah. That's what happens when you roll
That's
the
the
dice.
gamble, because he would have increased his position had he gotten it done against Dustin Poirier. He's right in the title picture. He's next in line. He would have definitely helped himself. Okay. Another question. Ashto asks us, what are Ariel's thoughts on the BT Sport deal not being re-signed over in the UK? Us Brits aren't impressed, to say the least. There's a lot of questions about this.
I know.
People in the UK not happy that BT Sport is not continuing.
We should have our UK expert Shamatkar Sandhu on to talk about this. So my understanding is that no longer on BT. BT has already acknowledged this, correct? They've already acknowledged that the deal is running out. And by the way, the BT Sport UFC Twitter feed is absolutely phenomenal. Whoever's running that thing, kudos to you. So they are moving, according to reports, to this thing called 11.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
It is called 11, yeah.
Yeah. This is what I'll say about it. And this is actually something that I've learned firsthand in my move. people, especially on social media, like to overreact to change.
Absolutely.
And I understand that change is scary. It's daunting. I understand that it could be a little bit rattling because we're all creatures of habit and we like our routine. I remember vividly when people complained that the UFC went from ESPN UK to BT Sport. I remember this like it was yesterday. I remember the complaints about BT Sport. And now you're upset that they're leaving BT Sport? How about we all take a deep breath? We understand that it's all a business. Things change. Things evolve. And let's hope that it evolves for the better. But to cry and moan that things are going to change for the worse without even waiting for it to go into effect seems a little counterintuitive in my opinion. It seems like 11 isn't the household name that BT was. And by the way, BT is a fairly new platform in the UK. So it's not like it's, going from, ABC here, like an established thing that's been around for 60 years or so. I think everyone just needs to take a deep breath. And I see everyone saying, I'm going to cancel my BT. I'm going to cancel. Well, okay, cool, great. Like, who are you making these threats to? Like, you don't want their product? I think that they were probably expecting that a lot of UFC fans are going to cancel their subscription to the channel. I just think that people need to wait. And in general, as humans, we just need to, it's very easy these days to voice our displeasure about something. You always see people complaining about airlines. You always see people complaining about a restaurant. But very rarely do you see people going out of their way to give compliments and saying how happy they are about something, right? And you feel otherwise?
I feel like there's certain avenues for that.
Rarely
Yelp
are people
something
going
like
out.
that.
What, like Yelp or something like that?
Yeah.
So anyway.
No, I get what you're saying.
Just chill. First of all, it's changing in December. We don't know anything about it.
You don't know anything how it's going to play out.
Yes.
That's the key. But, I mean, people got comfortable. And now they're losing their comfort. They feel like their safety blanket was snatched out. They like the way it was presented. I get being uncomfortable, but at the same time, what you said, you have to have some patience. You have to see what is actually going to be enacted. This could be better. You don't know.
This could be better.
Don't know. It could be better.
Yes.
You have to see.
I get the frustration. I get that you're afraid that things are going to change.
Sure.
But to be honest, like it's not like here in the U.S., there's a lot of questions about here, like the times, this and that, ESPN Plus. I get all that, right? But there, it's like, you guys, they're not going to change. Like, it's not like all of a sudden the events are going to start airing in the middle of the night. They already air in the middle of the night over there. If anything, it could only get better for you guys. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I just feel like nothing. The platform is going to change. If you're going to drop BT, then you'll pick up this new platform, and that's it. It's a fact of being a sports fan. Like sports entities, they change their broadcast home every like 5, 6, 7, 8 years. This happens. It's very rare that an entity stays with a certain network for 30, 40 years. It just doesn't happen.
And that's also the way the market is supposed to work. If you're not happy that the UFC is leaving BT Sport and you voice your displeasure and you cancel it, that's how it's supposed to work. Because on the other end of things, now the people that are happy that it's on 11 are going to voice that, and it gives them the position that they need to be able to bring in new products. That's exactly how it's supposed to work. You're supposed to.
So Ashto actually wrote to us right now, and he said, good to have Ariel Helwani answer my question on BT Sport getting rid of UFC. Get his answer, but if it goes to a company that makes UFC pay-per-view, it could kill it in the UK. Now, I understand that.
Yeah.
I will also say that it's on pay-per-view here and it's not dead, but I also understand that it's not airing in the middle of the night and on pay-per-view over there.
Yeah.
Again, I would say that it does not seem, at least to me, and I'm no expert on this, and again, I would defer to people who live in the UK, like our friend Sandu, and maybe one of these days we'll have him on to talk about specifically if it becomes such a big deal. To me, you have to wait and see, because I can't imagine a company is going to charge you in the middle of the night, right? $10, $12. If they're going to charge you just for the service, now that's another thing.
That's separate.
That's the way all media is going.
Yeah.
But if they're not going to charge you per show in the middle of the night, and think that the sport is going to grow, or the
viewership,
in
the fan base,
it's not going to grow. So I don't know. I haven't seen them come out with anything specifically to talk about it. I think everyone just needs to chill out. And I will remind you, because I remember it when they moved to BT. Everyone complained, "What is BT? It's a new." Just chill. All right, just chill.
We still need more info before we start getting the pitchforks. This is the perfect final question. We've been talking about it in different ways throughout. How do you feel about a staggered pay-per-view cost approach? Meaning, $69 for a premium fight card, stacked top to bottom, Conor McGregor's on it, whatever. This is from Matty V, by the way. Or for less popular fights, let's say a lesser fight card. We're looking at 227 and going, I don't know, this isn't as good. $49. How do you feel about pricing, tiered pricing for UFC pay-per-views?
I think it would be huge. I think that not all pay-per-views are created equal.
Sure.
Just look at this weekend. I think that the UFC needs to get away from having a set amount of pay-per-views a year, and that's part of their problem. September 8th, they're forced to do the Darren Till Tyron Woodley fight because they need a main event for that show. I guarantee you, if they did not need a main event for that show, Colby Covington would not be getting stripped.
Right.
I guarantee you, we saw it with UFC 206. Remember what led to Conor McGregor getting stripped of the featherweight title? It was DC, the light heavyweight champion, getting injured and them needing a main event. So they stripped Conor of the featherweight title. They gave Jose Aldo, the interim champion, the real belt, and they made Pettis versus Holloway the interim title fight. Remember that?
I do.
Remember that they went from DC getting injured to Conor getting stripped. It's because they need main events. They need title fights in the main event. And I think it's high time that they stop, sticking to this number. It doesn't sound like that's changing, but this is an example. This weekend is an example. 228 is an example. And then we have cards like this past one earlier in July in Vegas, that are super stacked. 225 had 2 title fights. I mean, we could get into the whole interim thing. You just crowned the guy the interim champion. You were criticized for that, and now you're going to strip him. That just goes to show, you've just exposed yourself. Now you're just telling us that you're literally creating belts for pay-per-views.
But did we not know this?
But now you're just admitting it.
It's explicit.
Now you're just admitting it.
Sure.
The guy literally won the belt a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
And you're about to strip him of it.
Yeah.
What is that? What is going on here?
I certainly feel like now it's been declared. It's final. It's on paper.
These are pay-per-view titles. What Colby Covington won at UFC 225 was the UFC 225 welterweight title.
It was.
It's like a TV belt.
It was a TV belt.
That's wild to me.
I think the consensus, though, is that they were already that. I don't think there's anybody out there.
This is confirmation.
For sure.
This is absolute confirmation. And leave it to the UFC to actually make Colby Covington into a sympathetic character. The most polarized, hated guy in the sport. The guy who's ruining Star Wars, who's ruining all kinds of movies, who's making fun in a very derogatory way of Mike Perry's ex-girlfriend. Really tough things, right?
Heinous things.
Now I kind of feel bad for him. And I think a lot of other people feel bad for him too. You don't? I'm sorry, but he was wronged in this situation. I don't begrudge Darren Till at all. Take that fight the same way I don't begrudge DC for taking the Brock fight.
For sure. For me, it's not coming from a place of a value judgment on Covington. It's coming from a place that I didn't think that belt meant much of anything to begin with. So it's hard for me to feel bad about him getting it taken away.
The belt leads some more money. The belt leads some more opportunities.
That's fair. The interim title does have implications to that, so that is fair enough. But it's hard for me to overcome the feeling of that I didn't feel like that was the belt anyway. But certainly there's an impact for his pocket that isn't right. But should he have been given that opportunity anyway? Should the fighters have those opportunities for the interim belt? Shouldn't he get paid more regardless of that false title?
I think the UFC's in a position now where they're saying, we're not going to let you guys push us around.
Yeah.
We need to put our foot down. Chris Weidman talking about the old days. No one pushed Lorenzo Fertitta around.
That's right.
You know what I mean? You did not tell Lorenzo Fertitta, when you're going to, that guy.
It's a new era.
Yes. And so that's what they're doing. So they're not going to, they're going to let the Conor thing drag on, but Colby Covington, expendable. You could take away that belt.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. 12-6 elbows. Time to get rid of him?
That rule is outdated. It's time to get rid of it.
Crazy.
I mean, after John Jones, Matt Hamill was time to get rid of it. I think that exposed something to the public, and after that, everybody said, wait, why is this a thing? And we went over it, and everybody understood what was happening, and we kind of just, because they're not that common, we kind of just accepted it. Everybody moved on. It's silly. There's nothing that's happening with a 12-6, especially if all you have to do is arc it. It's the same elbow. It's the same elbow.
What is that?
It makes no sense.
Yes. It's especially when it doesn't even land. I mean, I understand. Look, if you're going to, if I'm going to go up to you and try to, gouge your eyes or something, I think there's an infraction. I'm not going to criticize Mark Goddard in this situation It landed. So
he did it by the textbook.
Yeah, but I respect him for actually saying, did you hear when he said it's not my rule?
Yeah.
That was his way of saying, like, I don't necessarily agree with this, but I have to enforce it.
He enforces it. That is his job.
And then I saw some people, like I saw Casey, our friend, say, like, oh, it's to the referee's discretion. Like, no one gets penalized these days. Like, no, I don't want it to keep getting worse. I want the days of 4, 5, 6 warnings, to me, are crazy. Like, we need to get rid of those days.
Yeah, we definitely need to be trending the other way.
Yes.
But is that to the referee's discretion? That is an illegal strike. I don't think there's any case to be made where...
Well, no, I think what he's saying is, like, and I saw other people say this, like, you get, like, Jared Gordon, you get hit in the below the equator, you're not always going to get a point taken away.
But he didn't get a point taken away.
No,
they stopped the action.
But there was a change in the flow of the fight.
Certainly, but
he didn't have to.
The action stops after one of those shots as well.
Yeah, but he didn't. He could have easily gotten away with saying, like, hey, don't do that, and not stood them up.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Without it,
with the drastic change. That's what I'm saying.
I think,
but I don't begrudge him.
Nobody says that after a nut shot or after an eye poke.
Yeah,
they stop the action. I think everything lines up for that having been the perfectly right course of action.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have liked to see a warning in that case. That is an illegal strike that is known to the fighters, the same way kicking in the groin is, the same way poking in the eyes is. That is an illegal strike known to the fighters. I think there will be cases where if your fingers are extended, or let's say Eddie Alvarez almost landed a 12-6 elbow. At no point do I think Mark Goddard would have stopped that fight. I think or stopped the action there.
Right.
I think he would have said, hey, watch that. That's a 12-6 elbow. And it would have continued. I don't think he would have broken it up if he hadn't landed that shot. But because he landed an illegal strike, the same way he would have landed a kick to the groin, the same way he would have landed an eye poke, there is a halt in the action, and he had to lose the position there. The groin strikes happen on the feet, so you can't take away the position. But I don't think that anything was mishandled. I don't think there's any call for a warning of any kind. That was an illegal strike. Hey, you lose the position. Let's restart this fight. Yeah. I think everything was handled perfectly. But I think the rule is silly.
Yeah.
Unlike what I feel about eye pokes or kicks to the groin. I think those are clearly need to be enforced. I think it's a silly rule. Get rid of it.
Absolutely.
ASAP.
True or false, Joanna's next fight is for a belt?
False.
Yeah. I agree with that too.
Not happening. Can't happen this quick.
Too fast.
We've seen it twice already. We talked about how we're getting less and less into the immediate rematches. I don't want to see an immediate trilogy. Like one fight and then she's back in there. I'm okay with her fighting other people for now.
True or false, Yoel Romero and Paulo Costa will actually fight on November 3rd.
I hope true. I want to see it. I want to see. I want to
see Romero 205. I think we're trending in the direction of people finally figuring out that they're better when they don't cut so much weight.
That's such a fun fight.
I know, but
Romero at 85 is tough.
He's getting older. And you know what? I'll tell you why I don't want to see it.
Okay.
Because they tried to bully him into taking the fight.
Yeah.
So like for actual like what's the word I'm looking for? When you precedent's sake.
Yeah.
That's why.
You don't want to. Now, the reason it's not happening or not official, not happening yet, is because of what you're saying. Is because he's
Costa agreed to the fight. Romero never did.
So, but what if Romero
put it out there?
What if Romero gets what he wants though?
Yeah, fine.
Then I'm on board.
Fair enough.
Let's make that
I just
fight.
don't like that being a thing.
Agree with you.
On the one hand, we're saying don't announce fights early, and on the other hand, we're actually just putting things out there.
But this is what I was talking about with things not being official yet. That's why the proper channels sometimes have to be handled. In this case, it's the promotion though, not the fighter.
Yes.
Who's going outside of those channels.
How great was it to see Bret Hart in attendance on Saturday?
Fantastic.
And then DC putting him over.
Yeah, and Kutilaba's tribute, fantastic.
Amazing.
Love that.
Absolutely amazing. Shout out to Antonio Carvalho, who did it at UFC 149 first. He came out to that song way back when. Nick Newell, true or false, does he actually get a UFC fight?
False.
Never.
I mean, what would be the opportunity there? Unless it's a short notice. Hey, I'm ready. We're in Connecticut. We're in New York. We're in New Jersey. Here's a guy who's ready to step in right away and compete. I think those are the circumstances, but this was an opportunity that he knew full well going in. This is my path to the UFC. I've been given this opportunity, and he didn't get it done. So I would say false. But we've seen guys of lesser caliber get put into short notice fights just because they're ready, they're in the area, and they can go. he's a guy that you could call up, and New York.
If you're a Bellator or PFL, do you go after him?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
He's been the momentum that he's got behind him from everybody. The media focus on him, the public. Everybody is focused on Nick Newell. Now this is a bump in the road. Now my redemption story begins with this promotion. If you're a promotion out there, he's
I would have tried to sign him yesterday.
He's somebody you snatch up.
Yeah. I don't feel uncomfortable when I watch him fight.
No. That for me, that was never a case with Nick Newell. As I've been saying, I think he shouldn't have fought on Contender Series. He should have been a guy that the UFC signed outright.
But this was the perfect scenario for them. Put him on the show.
For the UFC, it was. For Newell, if I'm Newell, I would have said, I don't need this. Put me in the show or don't. And he didn't have the juice for it, and he lost that opportunity. I don't think it happens unless in that very specific circumstance. But I think any other promotion should be happy to have him and should be going after him.
Renzo Gracie, 51. Does he fight again? True or false?
I mean, what a guy. Just what an inspirational figure. Does he fight again? I'm going to say yeah, just because what's stopping him from fighting at 60? He's just going to keep feeling like he's 30 and do it. Maybe at 60 he feels like he's 20. He will fight again because that's all he knows to do. He is that guy. I don't think he can.
As the kids say, he is that dude.
He is that dude. But what a guy. Just what an inspirational figure. His demeanor, the way he approaches everything, the way he talks about this. 51 years old, getting it done. What more can you say about him?
Respect to Renzo Gracie.
He sat in this seat.
He sat in this actual seat.
I feel
and
blessed.
Here you are wearing a fanny pack, although it's an awesome fanny pack. Tough blow for Olivier Aubin-Mercier, but he's handled it well. And Alex Hernandez
is, the sky's the limit.
Alex Hernandez is so he was disappointed in his performance.
He didn't want a decision. He wanted to finish. I think it's easier said than done against a guy like Olivier, who's been at the top in that upper echelon for a long time. Hernandez, I think, is a star in the making. Everything he says, everything he does in the cage, he's a star in the making.
So this time next week, DJ still the champ, TJ still the champ, in your opinion?
No doubt about it.
All right. Wow. No doubt about it. Don't even buy the pay-per-view. Just watch the show next week.
More for the DJ end of it. I think Cody is still a very dangerous opponent for TJ. I'm picking TJ. But no doubt about Demetrius Johnson. I think that train keeps rolling.
All right. Anything else?
That's it.
We are good. Put these bad boys back on. It looks like you're doing the title.
This is my belt.
Yeah. I want a shot at the king, but really you're just caressing your fanny pack. Thank you to our friend Kevin, who's moving on. Did you know that?
I did, yeah.
I don't know. We're not supposed to talk about this?
Maybe
not. All right. We are done. What a fun day. Thank you very much, Mr. New York Rick. I appreciate it. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to all our guests. Jake, you can hit my music. There it is. The sweet sounds. What's this guy saying to me right here? Someone's calling you Hip Rick. BT is not a channel, it's the provider, internet, TV, phone, and many people choose them because of its sport. It's now a right hassle. I mean, I guess. Come on. I don't know. I think it's all going to work out. Don't worry, guys. I know you're very quick to complain and to get all upset, but don't worry. Everything's going to be okay. Anyhow. Oh, here's more. Okay, I'll read that later. This one guy is just ready. That guy that you asked, you answered his question. He's just going on and on. All right, we'll see what happens. It's developing, okay? Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to all our guests. If you missed any of the show, check it out. It'll be up on YouTube in a matter of moments. Do not worry. Also, the iTunes audio and all the other audio will be up, so have no fear. Up in record time. Thank you, Mark Henry, Ioane Jacek, Nick Newell, Darren Till, Caitlin Chukagian, Chris Weidman, Ilir Latifi, Max Holloway, Henry Cejudo, Kamaru Usman, TJ Dillashaw, and Jared Gordon for coming on. Much love to all of you for watching. And again, if you want to download the audio, go check it out on iTunes and on the ESPN app and Google Play, all those places, Stitcher, all that and more. Back next week, same time and place. Until then, I say peace. Somebody.